Hello and welcome back to another video. I'm your beautiful host, Young Buffett, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some of the things that Google has killed. And what I mean by that is there is a list that goes on and on and on about things that Google has made and killed themselves. Over on Finery, it's my little trading group over here. It's like Discord, but for investing. We talk about stocks, cryptos, NFTs, and whatnot. Tim sent me over a website, killedbygoogle.com. And on this website, as you can see, there's just a massive list of things that Google has killed. And today we're going to be taking a look at some of them and seeing if they're a good idea or not, because what I thought was super interesting is it's a great lesson on just getting started. And what I mean by that is sometimes you have an idea, sometimes you have a concept, sometimes you have a service, you want to just get started on something. This is a really good lesson on just getting started, reviewing it, and then killing it if you need to. Now take a look at this. Google Desk Bar was made in 2003 and it lasted until 2006. And when we take a look at these dates, it's important to understand that Google was made in 1998. So they were just getting started, and one of the first things they came out with was the Google Desk Bar. It was killed about 16 years ago. Google Desk Bar was a small inset window on the Windows toolbar, and it allowed users to perform searches without ever leaving the desktop. It was over 2 years old. And when you do a little Google search about it, this is what comes up. It's essentially a little window that was kind of like a widget right on your Windows button, right on your Windows screen at the very bottom. Could be useful, could be useless, but I think they got rid of it to kind of just consolidate a little bit. They wanted it to all be on their platform instead. So they came out with that idea, then they ended up killing it. Google Public Service Search killed almost 16 years ago. Google Public Search provided governmental, nonprofit, and academic organizational search results without ads. So in 2002 to 2006, there was a way where you could search without getting ads. And this is what it looked like, the Google Plus service. It was essentially a public search that allowed people to search without ads. I wonder why they got rid of that. Probably not very profitable, huh? It seemed like a good idea at the time. But after reviewing it for 4 years, they decided to get rid of it. Next up on the list of things that they've killed, Writely. Writely was killed almost 16 years ago now. Writely was a web-based word processor. Sounds a little bit like Google Docs, right? But Writely, it's a free word processor. And it looks just like Word. But they probably got rid of that because they consolidated it all into a platform like Google Word, Google Doc. Next up on the list, we have Google Answers. And this one's hilarious to me because it's kind of like Yahoo Answers. Killed over 15 years ago, Google Answers was an online knowledge market, and it was over 4 years old. The problem with that is it opened it up to user-generated content. And it was essentially asking the internet, but the quality of the answers that came back was diluted with spam questions that were attempts for credit card thieves to verify different stolen credit card numbers. And it just became like a disgusting pool of scamming and other problems. So Google decided, we got to kill it. Next up on the list, 2006 to 2007 only lasted a year. This one is super interesting to me because Google Video Marketplace was a service that included a store where videos could be bought and rented. It was over 1 year old. They kind of had the Netflix idea. And Netflix was made in 2007. This thing was killed in 2007. It was essentially a dashboard where you could rent movies or buy videos. I don't know if they would have developed that further, if that could have became something like a Netflix. I think down the road, Google could acquire somebody like Netflix. I think Microsoft is probably the best candidate to acquire somebody like Netflix. I think if Google does it, they might run into antitrust laws because YouTube currently is such a massive platform that it competes with Netflix a lot. So I don't know if they're allowed to. But that video marketplace was a good idea, but they ended up shutting it down. Next up, we have Google Video Player. And I think this is a little bit like they were trying too much. They were diversifying a little too much. And this is a common theme that you'll see here, where the Google Video Player plays back files in Google's own video format, a .gvi, a media format that was supported playlists in Google's video pointer. It was 12 months old. It was a year old. And they got rid of that. And it looks like QuickTime or VLC Media Player. What was the purpose of this? And it just doesn't make sense on why they would want to make something like this. But I'm not entirely sure what their plans were, but maybe it makes sense why they then branched off into YouTube, because a lot of their things that they were working on here is seen in YouTube. So it's interesting to see they created something, they failed, they created something, they failed, and then eventually they landed on something like YouTube. Google Click to Call killed over 14 years ago from 2004 to 2007. So it was about 4 years old. It was a click to call, and it allowed users to speak directly over the phone to businesses found in search results. And I thought this one was super interesting because it's kind of still there, where if you search a number, you can, or if you search a business, you can see their phone number. But this was a button directly on search that if you clicked it, you would be able to call those people directly. I don't know why they got rid of that. I feel like that would be a good added value to Google searching. But I think with the integration of iPhones, and you can still, I think iPhone just lets you do it now. So I don't know why they got rid of it, or if they even did. I don't understand how it's dead, but it is. Next up, we have Zeitgeist. Killed over 14 years ago, Google Zeitgeist was a weekly, monthly, and yearly snapshot in time of what people were searching on Google all over the world. It was almost 7 years old. So this one they kept for a long time. And it looked like this. They even had their own little branding. This kind of reminds me of the YouTube Rewind, where every year they recap the biggest and best, most viral things that happened on YouTube. But it's interesting. I mean, they tried this for 7 years and then they decided that's it. We're done. We don't want to do this anymore. And they just moved right on. Next, we had Google's Web Accelerator from 2005 to 2008. Killed over 14 years ago, Google Web Accelerator was a client-side software that increased the load speed of web pages. It was over 2 years old. I mean, you could argue that this could be something beneficial, but I wonder if this was made before Google Chrome, because maybe now Google Chrome does this inherently or just baked in right into their platform. But you can take a look here. You identified your internet connection. Do I have dial-up, DSL, or cable modem? And then you would identify which type of preferences you want to increase your loading time and your loading speed. So valuable product to some, but probably not too profitable for them, and they just ended up getting rid of it. Then last but not least on our list that we're going to be covering today, Hello. Google Hello. Killed about 14 years ago. Hello was a service by Picasa. Let users share pictures like you're sitting side by side. It was almost 6 years ago. Kind of sounds like Instagram-ish, but it was pretty much like an Instagram type thing where you would upload your photos and be able to share them with friends. But they ended up killing it. Again, this list goes on and on about all the different things that you thought was a good idea. And then it probably was a good idea. It lasted a little bit, but they know how to trim the fat. They decide at the end of the year, maybe they review all of their different business departments and they say, this is profitable, this is not profitable, this is what we like, this is what we want to focus on. Take the engineers from over here and put them over there. And you just eventually grow it to something that just works. So with that, if you have an idea for anything, just get started and then kill it later like Google. If you like videos like this, we can keep going on this list. It just goes on and on. Let me know down in the comments if you want to see more of these. Maybe we can make a curated list of the top 5 best ones. I don't know. With that, I love you, and I'll see you in the next video.